Did you know there was this startup that, despite the odds, carved out a niche for itself in a supposedly saturated market? It was one hell of a journey, full of ups and downs. Today, they're enjoying the fruits of their labor, garnering tremendous market share through relentless innovation and astute market positioning.
Sounds like they're really killing it. What's the secret behind their success, Charlotte?
Well, it all boils down to their innovative approach and acute understanding of their target market. They knew how to evaluate their own potential accurately and align it with the market opportunities.
And that's what we're going to discuss today, isn't it?
Yes, we'll aim to answer this essential question. How can we accurately evaluate the potential of a startup to succeed?
Fascinating. It's not all about the dollars you can pump into it, but about a multitude of factors then?
Absolutely, Natalie. It involves a deep understanding of the market, assessing the innovation, gauging the competitiveness, and much more. It's a mix of both art and science. Investing in a startup begins with understanding its market size. This might sound like a straightforward concept, but it requires a deep dive into 3 key market segments.
Guessing these segments must be total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and serviceable obtainable market, right?
Absolutely, Natalie. The total addressable market, or TAM, represents the complete demand for a product or service. Think of it as the maximum revenue a business can generate by selling its product or service in a perfect world scenario. Next, there is the serviceable addressable market, SAM. This is a subset of the TAM and represents the portion of the market that can realistically be served by a company's products or services. Factors like geography, company size, and distribution constraints usually limit SAM. Lastly, serviceable obtainable market, or SOM. This is a realistic short-term goal for a startup. It accounts for current competition and market share, often expressed as a percentage of SAM.
Interesting, so all 3 can be vastly different?
Indeed, Natalie. Knowing these metrics equips potential investors with a quantifiable estimation of the startup's customer base. It provides the scope of opportunity for a startup, and investors often base their investment decisions on these.
Striving to grasp market size is paramount, but we can't ignore another essential aspect, market penetration. And with that, we touch on scalability. Market penetration refers to the number of potential customers that are currently buying your product or service. For instance, if we consider the New York food market, and let's say the Latin cuisine sector within that, the number of people already consuming Latin cuisine here represents the market penetration. Now, if you plan to provide a new Latin cuisine food truck service like I dream of one day, the existing consumer base defines your potential initial market penetration. But what does it signify for startups? It hints at the immediate revenue potential. And yes, Charlotte, I know what you're wondering. How does scalability come into play here?
I must admit, I am curious about that. How does it factor in?
Well, once a startup has achieved certain market penetration, its primary focus shifts to scaling up its operations. It's about expanding to new markets, reaching out to more potential customers, essentially widening its market penetration. A memorable case I'd like to share is of a home chef delivery service startup in New York. They initially serviced a small, passionate group of time-strapped food enthusiasts craving homemade meals. With steady market penetration within this niche, they saw potential for growth and began to scale. Their secret recipe for success was understanding market dynamics, the demand, the competition, the preferences of their customer base. With this knowledge, they weren't shooting in the dark while scaling, in turn, minimizing their financial risks. Talking about risks, I'd like to highlight that both small and large markets come with their own sets of challenges. Large markets, although tempting, can be overwhelmingly competitive, while smaller ones may lack substantial growth opportunities, especially for startups eyeing rapid expansion. So it's a juggle between sustaining in a fierce yet lucrative market versus growing sustainably in a small but more manageable one.
Shall we dive into the factor of product or service uniqueness? This is the driving force behind a startup's potential to stand out in its industry. When an investor evaluates a startup's potential, they're keen to see how differentiated their product or service is. They are looking for what gives a startup its competitive edge. Innovation plays a key part here. This typically involves presenting something novel, be it in technical aspects, customer service, or business strategy that gives a startup the edge. There needs to be a noticeable difference that grants it a unique status. Agree?
Absolutely. It's less about reinventing the wheel and more about how you design the wheel to suit your customers' needs better.
Precisely. However, we must distinguish a true innovation from a mere spin-off. We see many startups on the surface appearing to offer something new, but when you dig a little deeper, you're left wondering, what truly sets it apart?
Yes, there's a fine balance between innovation and imitation. Charlotte, how should investors navigate this landscape? What do you suggest for them to evaluate if a startup's offering is truly unique or just a facade of uniqueness?
Great question, Natalie. An investor should not be shy about challenging a startup's claim of uniqueness. It's vital to question what stops a competitor from easily copying the product or service. The answer often lies in the barriers that a startup has set up to protect its innovation, be it in technology, mechanism, or design. Additionally, a unique selling proposition needs to be more than being different for the sake of it. It needs to solve a problem or meet a need in a way that no one else can. Investors, therefore, need to consider not just if a product is unique, but whether that uniqueness has substantial value for the target customer.
In the realm of startups, a distinctive product or service can be a game changer. Case in point is Yum Cuisine, a culinary startup that genuinely revolutionized a saturated market, simply through the uniqueness of its product. Do you know how, Charlotte?
No, I'm not familiar with their story. Could you share it?
Absolutely. Yum Cuisine designed an innovative food app, connecting home chefs with food lovers. Essentially, they built a platform where anyone with cooking skills could offer their dishes directly to consumers, and consumers could choose from a diverse range of home-cooked meals. This, in a market overfilled with restaurant delivery apps, the strategic blend of homey cuisine and cutting-edge technology truly set them apart.
That's intriguing, and it shows how crucial product uniqueness can be. I can perceive the substantial value their service delivers. But Natalie, let's consider the flip side. What are potential risks when startups don't have a unique product or service?
Right. While a unique product can propel a startup to stardom like it did for Yum Cuisine, the lack of it could be detrimental. When startups fail to distinguish themselves from the crowd, they risk being overshadowed and miss out on capturing the interest of potential investors and customers. There's little incentive for people to choose a copycat over an original after all. Hence, uniqueness really plays a pivotal role in dictating a startup's fate. Charlotte, I'm sure you'd agree that the startup world can be significantly shaped by industry competitiveness.
Without a doubt, Natalie. The dynamics of competition play a fundamental role in shaping a startup's strategy, trajectory, and even its survival odds.
Exactly. And one of the primary tools we use to assess this competitiveness is Porter's 5 Forces analysis. Originally developed by Harvard Business School's Michael E. Porter, it's an effective way to understand the landscape of industry competition.
Right. For listeners unfamiliar with it, could you elaborate on what Porter's 5 forces are, Natalie?
Certainly. The 5 forces are 1. Threat of new entrants. 2. Bargaining power of suppliers. 3. Bargaining power of customers. 4. Threat of substitute products or services. And 5. Competitive rivalry within the industry. Together, they help uncover key elements such as barriers to entry, supplier and customer influence, substitution threats, and internal rivalry.
So understanding these forces helps startups identify potential challenges they may face. It aids them in strategizing and making informed decisions.
Absolutely. It's like going to battle. You wouldn't go into a battlefield without understanding your position, would you? Analyzing these forces also helps potential investors evaluate the risk and viability of their investments.
And what about seeing these forces in action? Can we tie this to a real market scenario for our listeners?
Quite so. Consider the ride-sharing industry, dominated by giants like Uber and Lyft. It's an oligopolistic market, a kind of market structure where a few firms have the large majority of market share.
So, an aspiring new player in this space would likely face high entry barriers like regulations, strong customer loyalty, and substantial capital requirements.
Exactly, Charlotte. Those potential barriers place immense scale and capital demands on the newcomer, And that's why understanding industry competitiveness is indispensable for both startups and investors.
Let's recall the example of this fascinating startup I recently stumbled upon, Breathe Co. Ever heard of it, Natalie?
Actually, no, I haven't.
That's all right. Breathe Co. provides a suite of innovative respiratory healthcare solutions. What is intriguing about their story is, there were already established players in the market when they entered, yet they managed to carve out a niche for themselves.
So do tell Charlotte, how did they handle the competition?
Breathe Co. managed to swim against the tide, primarily through strategic differentiation. They understood that just having a unique product wasn't enough. They had to differentiate in terms of how they delivered value to their customers. Their strategy was to tailor their offerings to the specific needs of different customer segments, while also building strong customer relationships. They identified that patients needed more personal care, empathetic service, and innovative solutions.
And I'm guessing that's how they stood out in a crowded market?
That's part of it. Their ability to empathize with customers' pain points and constantly iterate their product offerings based on customer feedback was instrumental to their growth. They also invested in cutting-edge AI technology that enabled personalized care plans.
Seems like they had a blend of market-oriented strategy and robust technological backbone. But isn't having such a differentiated approach risky?
Indeed, it is risky. You are placing all your bets on a specific segment of the market. But here, Breathe Co. leveraged its deep understanding of both its product and its customers to manage that risk. What's noteworthy is, the market responded positively as they stood out amidst the Me Too products. They weathered the competitive storm to become a prominent player in the healthcare space.
Sounds like an amazing journey for Breathe Co. Just goes to show, with the right strategies, startups can overcome steep competition.
All right, getting straight into it, there's this term in the startup universe, business model sustainability. It's a factor investors keep a close eye on before they commit to any startup.
That sounds complex. Could you simplify it for us, Charlotte?
Sure, Natalie, I'd love to. Business model sustainability in simple terms is all about how prepared a startup is for long-term success. Think of it as a startup's green check for enduring in an ever-changing market.
Okay, the lasting factor. But what goes into ensuring that? Is it the product, the market, the team?
Good question, Natalie. It's a multidimensional concept. Though yes, the product, the market reach, and even the team play crucial roles, it's not just about them. The core lies in having a scalable model, one that can grow and expand without drastically increasing costs.
Scale without increasing costs? Sounds challenging.
Indeed it is. It's about streamlining operations and reducing redundancies. Just remember, growing the business doesn't necessarily mean growing the costs proportionally. If a startup can increase its output without a significant rise in expenses, it can potentially deliver value to both investors and consumers in the long run.
That makes sense. But surely not all businesses get it right from the start. Is there a way to pivot the business model after a certain point?
Absolutely, Natalie. And that's where the concept of pivot comes in. When a startup identifies that its current path isn't leading to the desired results, they can choose to pivot their model. This is a strategic shift to a new direction, often driven by data and customer feedback.
Well, that does sound like a whole lot of work.
It certainly is, Natalie. But in the volatile startup ecosystem, adaptability can be a critical virtue. Remember, while a sustainable business model lays the foundation, a continuous refinement of the model attracts the spotlight of success. After all, not all cards are revealed at the beginning of the game.
Building on the concept of business model sustainability, have you ever heard of a startup called Fresco?
No, I haven't. Could you tell us more about it, Natalie?
Certainly. Fresco, a culinary startup, began with a point to prove. Its business model revolved around offering a selection of pre-packaged gourmet meals that customers could quickly heat and serve. What set Fresco apart was their commitment to using only fresh, local, and organic ingredients, something quite rare in the ready-to-eat market segment.
That sounds interesting and unique. So how did they approach the sustainability aspect?
Well, Fresco's idea was to create a sustainable supply chain. They entered into partnerships with local farmers and producers, ensuring a steady stream of fresh ingredients while also supporting the local economy. This business model not only added value to their products, but also helped in meeting their growth objectives sustainably.
That sounds like a smart move. Did it have any pitfalls?
While Fresco's model was highly commendable and attractive to consumers, it wasn't without challenges. They faced issues managing the costs as sourcing locally and organically is generally more expensive. However, they kept iterating, innovating, and refining their model, and finally hit upon a blend of pricing and cost management strategies that worked best.
And did that help them in the long run?
Yes, it did. Their focus on sustainability made them attractive not just to a dedicated market of health-conscious consumers, but also to environmentally conscious investors. Over the years, with the right strategic moves and commitment to sustainability, Fresco has achieved substantial growth and is now a sought-after name in the segment.
That's remarkable. A lesson for every entrepreneur: sustainability can definitely make a huge difference on the road to success, not just in terms of environment, but also in business. When examining startup growth, we hinge our analysis on key performance metrics. These include CAGR, compound annual growth rate, MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and ARR, annual recurring revenue. CAGR allows us to see the rate at which a startup is growing each year. MRR and ARR, on the other hand, tells us how much consistent revenue a startup is generating. These metrics give us an insight into whether a startup is scaling and if its growth is sustainable.
And just to clarify, could you explain why customer retention matters when assessing a startup's growth potential?
Certainly, Natalie. Customer retention plays a significant role as it represents a company's ability to provide a product or service that consistently satisfies its customers. A high retention rate is a good indicator for investors that the startup is profitable and worth investing in the long term. On the other hand, a startup with low customer retention might have to reconsider aspects of its business model or product. This could be a sign that something is missing or not working correctly.
So, assessing growth isn't just about looking at how many new customers a startup can acquire.
Absolutely not, Natalie. It also involves how well it can maintain its relationships with existing clients, as customer loyalty can translate into recurrent revenue, promote brand reputation, and possibly attract more investors.
Charlotte, do you remember the food truck startup Sizzling Street?
Yes, they had a pretty impressive growth story, as I recall.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. When Sizzling Street started out, they were just a lone food truck in New York serving ethnic street food. Fast forward 5 years, they are making waves in the food industry with 100 trucks across 20 cities in the US and solid franchising set up in place. What truly caught the eye of investors was their unique approach to growth.
Absolutely. But they didn't exactly plan for the rapid expansion at the outset, did they?
Correct. During their early days, they focused on solidifying their core business in one market, New York. They strived to understand their customers, build a robust supply chain, and create an impactful brand. Only after their New York operation became profitable and operationally sturdy did they consider scaling to other cities.
So they opted for a flurry of expansion after stacking up a stable base. How did that look?
Impressively well structured. To avoid spreading themselves too thin, they deployed a considered franchise model to scale. They selected potential franchise partners based on strict criteria that included financial capacity, operational expertise, and commitment to the brand. During this process, they gained investors' trust with their strategic decision-making and meticulous execution, showcasing the importance of well-thought-out planning for growth.
That clearly illustrates how the crucial transition from the first truck to opening up franchising opportunities provided a compelling growth narrative. Their plan seems to be very calculated, and they've gone about it quite strategically. It's no wonder Sizzling Street has captured investors' attention. Natalie, you just detailed Sizzling Street's strategic and measured approach to scaling their business. As we explore the aspect of business scale, let's turn our lens to the interplay of scalability and revenue opportunities. The concept of scaling a startup is closely tied up with the notion of revenue growth. When entrepreneurs are building their business strategies, it is essential for them to consider how and when they will generate more profits. However, it's not just about increasing the volume of sales. Scalability is about expanding the business without the costs skyrocketing in the same proportion. In essence, it's your business's capacity to handle growth.
I see. That's a fascinating concept. Generating more profits without commensurate increase in costs. How does a startup achieve this? Through automation? Or maybe outsourcing? Partnerships?
Exactly, Natalie. Increasing business efficiency, outsourcing non-core tasks, building strategic partnerships, utilizing technology for automation, or optimizing supply chain are some of the ways a startup can scale effectively. However, it also means striking a healthy balance between scale and maintaining the existing customer service and product quality. One major challenge in this journey is ensuring consistent quality control, and another significant difficulty is managing an increasingly complex organizational structure.
Quality control and increasing complexity, right? I remember some startups losing their initial customers when they scaled too fast and found it challenging to maintain their service quality or product uniqueness. From scaling to fit, Charlotte. Product market fit, it's essentially the degree to which a product satisfies market demand. Now, reaching that product market fit is the bit every startup founder drools over because that's like the coming of age moment for a startup, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. It's like when everything clicks, when your product or service meets the needs of the customers in a substantial way. It's no longer about surviving, but thriving.
Exactly. And it reminds me of the success of this startup, the one that discovered a unique demand in our everyday lives. It's called Clean Eats.
The health food delivery startup, right?
Yes, exactly. Despite the existence of numerous food delivery startups, Clean Eats identified a specific need: delivering healthy, nutritious, and most importantly, tasty meals at the doorsteps of health-conscious folks who just didn't have time to prepare such meals because of their busy schedules. They weren't the first food delivery service, but they were probably the first one to really hit that product market fit for health-conscious urban dwellers.
That's a fascinating case study. But Natalie, even after achieving product market fit, isn't there always the risk of losing it?
Absolutely, Charlotte. Just like Clean Eats had to continuously tweak their menu, source quality ingredients, and even personally train their chefs to cater to new health trends. The thing is, product market fit isn't static. It's dynamic. The market is constantly evolving and startups need to evolve with it to maintain their fit.
Thinking about the startup's potential, we often overlook a significant aspect, the softer side, if you will, the founder's vision and ambition. Astute investors, however, prioritize this aspect because ideas may change, markets may vary, technologies may evolve, but the founders, their passion, dreams, and vision, if nurtured, often persevere. When hard times hit, it's the vision that fuels the ambition, the motivation that drives the team, not the mere idea of financial returns.
Right. I mean, in my experience, the food truck I dream of each day, that's not about just making money. It's a vision, a dream, an ambition. My own. To give the streets of New York the authentic flavors of Latin America. And that's what drives me each day, not the financials.
I understand your feelings, Natalie. That's exactly the point. Vision and ambition, they root us deeply, provide meaning, guide us, and hence reveal a lot about the founders. How they see the future, how committed they are, how innovative they can get when challenged, all reflect the founder's vision. In essence, it's like a beacon that defines a startup's direction.
So in a way, it impacts long-term viability. I know my food truck isn't obviously as technologically driven as most startups, but I do have a long-term vision for it.
Not all startups need to be technologically advanced, Natalie. To answer your question, yes, a clear vision indeed impacts long-term viability. A founder with a clear vision can better explore their market, align their goals, pivot when necessary, and navigate the challenges. Therefore, before investing, it is key for potential investors to assess not just the startup's current capabilities, but the founder's vision and ambition as well.
Our last story truly encapsulates the might of vision and ambition. This is about Salsa Fresca, a startup that gripped the crowded food truck industry of New York with its authentic Latin cuisine. The key? Their relentless pursuit of a vision bring their ancestors' age-old recipes back to life.
That's an enticing way to strategize. I bet the market dynamics were intense. Given New York's dense food truck landscape, how did they manage to carve out their space?
Indeed, it was tough. What made them stand out, though, was their unfaltering commitment to their vision and ambition. They held strong to their philosophy of using only handmade, homegrown ingredients, which aligned with the current trend towards healthier options.
So, even in a highly saturated, fiercely competitive market, salsa fresca found its foothold. I think underlying this success is the key takeaway we've discussed: vision and ambition. They're indeed essential variables in the startup equation.
Absolutely. The journey of salsa fresca is a testament to that. It underscores how transformative a clear vision and ambition can be when fueled with passion and relentless effort.
Venturing into the startup landscape could indeed be likened to journeying into an unknown territory, such as space exploration. Your vision is analogous to your guiding star, while your ambition works like the engine propelling you forward.
That's a great analogy, Charlotte. Venture capitalists, as we might perceive, essentially invest in this vision-propelled engine. These stories today underpin why such a qualitative assessment of a startup's potential holds enormous merit.